How's it going? Podcast with Joe and Sean. We were just chatting on the front end about some of the sounds that we should incorporate into the show, like, the "Are you ready?" from, WWE and all that stuff.
Do you have it?
Yeah, so we'll work on that for future pods. We'll see where that goes. Sean, how the hell's it going?
Oh my goodness. I am week 2 into hybrid teaching, and to paraphrase a joke from Jeff Ross, I'm right now currently half Italian and half asleep. I can't, it's pretty much just been going of days of dread constantly, where here it's great because I just focus on you in the computer, but there it's half the kids are in the class and half the kids are in the computer, and I forget about one of the groups.
Oh my God. I can't imagine. That's got to be a little crazy. Definitely a challenge, and we thank you for your service in that.
I managed to bring up every single time a remote teaching story so that I can get the thank you for your service from you, because
you're welcome.
It's just a good boost for me.
Well, I'm a nice guy like that,
Joe, how are you doing?
It's things are rolling along. So for those of you who are either watching right now or listening on the podcast, we didn't do it last night. I've just been a little under the weather. I think I'm just exhausted. This whole quarantine thing is really catching up to me finally.
Took 6 months, but it got to you.
It took 6 months, but here it is. But work's been not crazy, but crazy enough in weird times that it's I'm very much into a routine, and I feel like much into having a routine, and I feel like I can't get one. So we'll see where that goes. Which is why we're about to dive into movie watching, or what movies we watched, and you'll see that we both didn't watch a lot because we're back to life, right?
Exactly.
So Sean, talk a little bit about your movies. What did you watch this past week?
So not only do I have a disappointingly low amount of movies that I've watched, but also the movies that I watched are relatively disappointing in itself. And the first one I watched, which a lot of people have loved, so I'm in a bit of a minority here, is #Alive, which is a Korean zombie movie. I personally just felt like this film tried to explore different avenues and different aspects of the genre, and instead it just felt very familiar. If you've never seen a zombie movie, you might actually be into this and love it. It's unfair of me to give it the same old zombie, stamp of disapproval. But it really was just something that, I was like, oh, this guy's going to end up being bad. Oh, this is where they end up getting stuck. Oh, and they took every single note, and they tried to do these fresh takes, but they never went down those avenues fully.
Yeah,
so it was
disappointing.
Yeah. But the next one I watched was a documentary that yelled at me called The Social Dilemma. Joe, I'm wondering, did you know that social media was bad?
What?
Yeah, apparently.
Should we end this?
Apparently there's algorithms. Oh, yeah, that's the other problem I had, is that, it's just I was writing a review of this on social media. But yeah, apparently social media is bad and they have algorithms. I don't want to totally besmirch this documentary. I mean, it was well thought out. It was, kind of well done, but it's just stuff I already knew completely. And maybe this is important for people that don't know this stuff. I think that the largest issue was that it was a little bit too doom and gloom. They weren't wrong about anything. Everything was legit, but it just felt like, a little, they could have met us a little bit halfway. Climate change is a real thing. And if you say the entire world is underwater tomorrow, people are all going to start getting scared, or they're just going to be like, no, I'm not dealing with it.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Exactly. You got to hit some facts. And you have to calmly do it. Now, this movie just made me feel bad for having a phone. So it's still a good documentary. It's still an important documentary, but that is my main issue with that one. And I rounded it out with what might be considered a television movie, but I'm throwing it on here anyway because everything is a television movie.
Right.
This is the HBO movie Coastal Elites, directed by Jay Roach. It was directed entirely in quarantine, and it consists of 5 monologues from Coastal Elites. I'm just going to rattle off the 5 people. Dan Levy, Issa Rae, Bette Midler, Caitlin Dever, and I knew I was going to do this and forget one, Sarah Paulson.
Okay.
and it is funny. It is heart-wrenching at times. And then it can get very boring because it is just 5 monologues and there's no real connection to it, which is fine. It's like vignettes. I think this would have done better as a TV show. That's a very common thing to say, but it would have been easier to see these like in little pieces instead of like I kind of fell asleep during portions of it.
It kind of sounds like something you would see on Netflix, like releasing in like certain batches,
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah, go for it.
Comedians in cars or riding in cars with whatever, like that whole thing.
Yeah, it would have been a little bit more digestible that way. It's also, I am, quite the liberal. But if you are anywhere close to the center, you will feel uncomfortable by this.
Oh boy.
It's hey, as a liberal, it was fun, nice candy, but it wasn't really substantial. So it was fun to watch, and some of it was very good. Very well performed by all 5 of them. Very well written. It just as a whole in a movie, just
yeah. That sounds kind of. I don't know. When I read the original description of it, it really did nothing for me. I was kind of like,
Yeah, I was worried about it, and my worries came true.
Well, the only thing I watched this past week also folds into the political spectrum a little bit. It was The Way I See It, which is a documentary that is loosely based on Pete Souza's book, Shade. Pete Souza is the former photographer for 8 years that worked with President Obama. He worked with Ronald Reagan in the past. It's very interesting. I mean, it turns into like a love letter to President Obama, which, like, again, as a liberal, I didn't hate. But it really kind of makes you mad in a lot of ways, like the way that things are now compared to then. And I don't know. I wonder who it's for. I guess it's for like the liberals, right? But I think at the end of the day, it was just pretty fascinating to see this guy's access to the first family and really kind of all aspects of what was going on in the world. I mean, seeing the Sandy Hook shooting up close and seeing like being able to follow the president in his response was really heartwarming. Heartwarming is probably not the right word. It was really touching to see the care and, his staff trying to move him along and him saying like, no, I'm going to take my time and talk to each of these families. And God, I just like, come back or someone come in.
So
it's good. The Way I See It's a good movie. It wasn't my favorite, but it captured my attention and it was pretty interesting. I did buy the book. The book is pretty funny. And hey, support who you want to support. We support all views as long as they're factual views. That's me saying that. But the book is kind of entertaining. It's it's literally called Shade, and it will show like a tweet from Trump and then like a picture rebutting it, like with what Obama did in that case.
So he's been bumped off my algorithm after a while, but I did follow Pete Souza on Instagram for a while, and he often did that. As whenever something happened in the news, he would put something with Obama there back in the day and just kind of go through that.
He got pretty saucy there for a while, and he wasn't able to do that when he was working for the White House. So it's a whole new voice he found, which I'm all for. I'm like, go for it, be shady. So all about it. Should we jump into the news stories of the week?
We've got some news, so let's go for it.
We do have some news, and we have some segments I feel like we're getting to, right? So first we're going to talk about movies that are on the move, and then we're going to have the Scream 5 segment because we talk about it weekly now. And then who knows what else? But first and foremost, we do have movies on the move. Theaters are not reopening in the way that I guess was expected by Hollywood. And more so, I guess a better way of saying that is that people are not flocking back to theaters the way that Hollywood expected or wanted. So what we're seeing is that a lot of movies are on the move or are rumored to move. The first of which is Wonder Woman 1984, which has been pushed back once again from October to Christmas Day as of now. Now, there's still some rumors that might get pushed into 2021, but Christmas Day is where we're looking for Wonder Woman 1984 at this point. Disappointed?
I just think that pushback is very weird. Like, 2 months. That's, like it just seems like a very unnecessary pushback. Why bother? Just like kind of push it right into 2021. I know that it's easier said than done. They want to get a certain, they want to get a certain revenue by a certain time, and I think that gets tricky. I know that something like that could be. This is definitely not going to happen, but an HBO Max type of release, they could think about that. I know that they want to make way more money than that, so they might try to figure out some sort of HBO Max, but $20 type of thing. I know that Mulan was an interesting case with their revenue. They did well in the States, but didn't do well in China because it got blacked out. Which is very interesting. But I think at this point, I think it's Warner Brothers, correct?
It is Warner Brothers.
They're sort of feeling the hit from Tenet, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, and so I didn't know officially those, but so I think they're a little bit skittish after that because Tenet, did okay, but didn't do so hot. Of course, it's not going to do so hot because several several countries don't have theaters at all. New York and LA, you're going to do without theaters there, and I think that that kind of situation means that you have to push this back even further. But it just seems weird to go through the whole announcement of 2 months where, obviously this is getting pushed back further.
And the crazy part to me is that, you're starting to see theaters that are reopening in LA, I think limited in certain spots. I don't know the full story. I haven't really read about it, but also New York, I think, is getting ready to reopen as well in certain aspects. I don't know if they're piecemealing it. Like, for instance, around me, there's 2 Regals that are literally like 5 minutes apart down the street, 5 to 10 minutes apart. And the smaller one is open right now. The larger one, I think, actually might open this week. But they're kind of, taking steps to space those openings out. So I don't know. It must be something with the returns that they're seeing. I will tell you that driving by the movie theater near me on a regular basis from time to time is what I was about to say. On a regular basis, you see an empty parking lot. And right now there's 5 movies that are playing. There's there's Milan, The Broken Hearts Gallery, Tenet, Unhinged, and something else that I'm forgetting.
And only one of those is a prestige name that people would like. The other ones probably.
And Milan's not playing. I don't know why I said Milan. Sorry.
Yeah, but it probably wouldn't even be seen in the theaters anyway. Like Unhinged, I don't think anyone's really, except for like cinephiles like us. Well, that's weird to say cinephiles will go see Unhinged, but like except for people that want to see a lot of movies like us, no one's really going to see Unhinged or unfortunately, I heard it's good. The Broken Hearts Gallery. But,
yeah, it's a shame. So we see that getting moved. The weird part about that as well is that Warner Brothers does have a movie coming out in between October, when Wonder Woman 84 was originally scheduled, and Christmas in Dune, which, I think the trailer dropped for Dune, and then the following day is when we got the news about Wonder Woman moving. So there's been a lot of talk over the past few months that maybe they would just play with those dates that they have in place and maybe push Dune to 2021 and push Wonder Woman back to the Dune slot, because I think Dune is early December, but we're not seeing that now. They've leapfrogged Dune. So I don't know what's going on there. Candyman has been bumped all the way back to 2021. And then in addition to that, we're finding out that Black Widow is likely moving to 2021 from its November date. And there's conflicting reports on Disney Pixar Soul, which is, some are saying that they're going to drop it on Disney Plus in a similar way that they did with Milan. I have a hard time believing that, because it was supposed to open some of the film festivals and was really going to be, I think, a shining example of Pixar at its best. So I don't see them dropping that like that, but things are moving.
So the interesting thing there is Candyman makes the most sense because that's a Halloween movie. They wanted that in September, October. So they're just going to say, all right, 2021. I don't know if it's officially September, October, but that's the reason why they pushed that one, because that's not something for a springtime release and would probably not do well on Christmas. But I look at Black Widow is another one where it's going to be a part of the whole intricate MCU universe. Or MCU universe, well, the Department of Redundancies department. I think about that might be the reason why they want to maybe hold on to that one and release it as soon as they can. So that might be the most likely Disney Plus. I think with Soul, the big thing with Soul, like you said, is going to open a lot of the festivals. Soul is getting awards buzz before it's even out and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And some early adopters are saying that this could possibly be like a Best Picture run.
Oh wow!
So something like that tells me that 2 things. One, you may be right about the Disney Plus thing because it's such a prestige movie. They may not want to put it that much, or this could be something where let's get it out to the people. Let's get the popular culture, and let's get it on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
It could be going either way here. And then, of course, I don't think Disney is that into making money, but those are two ones that like are cash grabs. And so, obviously they'll probably want to make some money, and they might do the Mulan route, but putting two more for $30, that might get a little bit spicy. I think some subscribers are going to start to get a little bit pissed off.
But remember, too, that based on some of the Academy's rules, the movies have to be in theaters for a certain amount of time. I don't know if they've been... For this year, it's been moved, right?
Yeah, this year is the only one where it's, the rule, which is a very weird stipulation, is that it had to have the intention of going into theaters, which is
every director probably says that.
Yeah, because they could say that at anything. But yeah, they pulled that for this year, and so technically, I guess Soul definitely had the intention of going into theaters. So.
Well, I'm depressed because I love going to the movie theater. That's a way that I really take a break from, the normal Groundhog Day that we're living in now. And I'm kind of mad that I spent so much time going straight to the theaters 3 days within a week and knocked out a lot of the movies. And I'm also I'm very thankful to be, getting press stuff now and getting some screeners ahead of time. But Broken Hearts Gallery, I watched it last week before it came out, and now that's in theaters, and I'm like, oh crap, am I ever going to get to see a movie again?
Yeah, exactly.
I would love to, but let's move on to Scream 5. We have been talking about Scream 5 for weeks on end now, and we found out...
I have a good Scream 5 opening, an opening segment for Scream 5.
Hit me.
All right, here we go. This is what I'm going to do. Ah! That's 5 screams for Scream 5.
This is a great time to announce an open casting call for your replacement. No. So
that is probably exactly what my upstairs neighbors just said.
Anyway, Nev Campbell will be screaming. Nev Campbell will be screaming. She'll scream again. No, Nev Campbell will be returning as Sidney Prescott in Scream 5. She, of course, is the main character that has been in all of the movies, has carried it from the very beginning, which is kind of crazy. I mean, we're seeing a lot of them returning, still trying to figure out what the movie is going to look like in terms of it being a continuation, a reboot, whatever they do there. But there's also some other casting news that I thought was pretty interesting, and we didn't put a story up on Guy at the Movies about this, but I do want to just draw attention to the casting of Mason Gooding, who is playing Victor in Hulu's Love, Victor, Dylan Minnette, who is the main character in Netflix's recently wrapped series 13 Reasons Why, Kyle Gallner from Veronica Mars, and Mikey Madison from Better Things. In addition to that, one of the original minor characters who played Deputy Judy Hicks, Marley Shelton, will be returning as well. So if nothing else, this cast is becoming very stacked with the addition of, I'm going to forget his name, Randy Quaid's son from The Boys, Jack Quaid.
Quaid, yeah. Dennis Quaid's son.
Yeah, Dennis Quaid, not Randy Quaid.
Get it mixed up all the time.
Hey, you know what? I need a map. So what do you think about this?
I think at this point, they're next week we're probably going to talk about them bringing Drew Barrymore back. But
she's dead.
Well, that was my point. Okay, so
she's dead.
I think this is a great example that this is going to be a torch passing movie.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be something where they're bringing back everyone from the old ones, and they're bringing a new cast of actors that I didn't really know those names, but I knew those shows and movies. And that tells me that, and also teenagers know those shows and movies. They are trying to bring this to the new generation. So they're going to be taking out the old generation, bringing in the new one. I think that this is going to be something that really is, hopefully if done right, will be a great way to, have Scream go 5 more films, because really, if you bring it to these younger ones and it's really successful, which, based on the news they're getting and the buzz they're getting just from just staying in the consciousness each time, that could be something that could work out.
Well, and I think Ghostface Killer, the main villain, has become such a popular mask and popular character for Halloween time. It's definitely something that I think they can continue to reinvent. They did it on MTV of all channels when they did an MTV Scream series that was pretty popular. I think. I think they did like 2 different types of it or rebooted it at one point. But who knows? But speaking of older generations, another story that we forgot to include in here: Madonna is getting ready to direct and co-write her own biopic. And I see that I spelled biopic wrong on the website. So that is really wonderful. But I have a lot of opinions about this. And so to start, why? This is stupid. With Rocket Man, you had Elton John, who was a consulting producer. He wasn't in the director's seat. He wasn't making all the creative decisions, but it was there to like guide and, tell them about certain parts of it. But it really took a lot of, I think, the creative control away from him. With this, we're going to get a biased view of all the stuff that, has become synonymous with Madonna's history, whether that is, her music and music videos or performances to some of the stuff in her personal life. So I'm not into it. I really hate this story.
I mean, if you told me that David Fincher was directing a Madonna biopic, I kind of wouldn't be interested because I'm not, with all due respect, musical idol, but I'm not really that interested in Madonna, at least right now. I think that, this is something that maybe could be done a little while later, not, that far off. But I think Elton John, he was someone that, has seen the error of his ways, has seen his issues, and, was able to just show all of his flaws in that movie.
Yeah.
I think Bohemian Rhapsody is the exact opposite. Those gentlemen were also involved in the movie, and they were all saints. And Freddie Mercury was the only one that partied and broke up with the band and everything. And I mean, that really bothered me when I saw their names as producers even.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of issues surrounding, having someone involved. I mean, The Last Dance was one of the best documentaries of the past couple of years. And yet Michael Jordan was involved in producing it and had final cut approval. Still, showed off his flaws, put some dimensions to him. I just think it's really tricky when that person is involved.
I agree with that. I'm not interested in Madonna's story of Madonna. I'm interested in someone else coming in and telling that story. So hey, but more power to her. Good for her. We'll see what we get out of that one, but I'm not rushing to the theaters to see that anytime soon, nor is anyone apparently. So, one of the more entertaining stories that I found from this past week, because it just kind of confirms a lot of the stuff that we had heard about production of these films for quite a while, has to do with the most recent trilogy of Star Wars. So talking about The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker. Daisy Ridley recently was on Jimmy Kimmel Live when Josh Gad was hosting it. Jimmy Kimmel apparently has taken the entire summer off, which is fascinating to me. But anyway, she talked about how it was not always the intention that she would be related to Emperor Palpatine. So this is kind of a spoiler, but hey, the movie's been out for a while and it's Star Wars, so people know it. But, early on, the leading contender for her parentage in that lineage was going to be Obi-Wan Kenobi, which I think would have been fascinating to kind of factor in because Kenobi is such a popular character. But, she was told that it was going to be him. And then it kind of went to no, you're nobody in The Last Jedi. And then she was going to be a nobody. And then there was the idea about Palpatine. But even while they were filming The Rise of Skywalker, apparently it was back and forth, which just pretty much embodies the entire issues with those 3 films having no direction whatsoever.
It's important to remember something that Lucas said, and regardless of how you feel about the prequels, which they're not great movies, but Lucas said that the Star Wars saga, the 6 movies before these 3 came about, he said it was the story of Anakin Skywalker. Even those 3 at the very end, where you didn't even know he was Anakin Skywalker until halfway through the last one, or halfway through, yeah, you get my idea. But that just shows that he had something in mind. Yeah, the prequels are a fair amount of garbage, but he has a lucid story in mind. This last trilogy, it shows that they didn't have any control over this story. And I understand, they wanted to give directors creative control. They gave Rian Johnson control. Then J.J. Abrams kind of brought it back. I think the issue was they should have told Ryan Johnson, you have to stick with this bit, this bit, this bit in this story.
Like a Marvel movie. These are the guideposts. This is where I need you to hit.
Yeah.
Do your thing, but this is what I need you to hit.
And, Ryan Johnson did something where he made Rey nobody. And first of all, I'm for that. I think that's awesome. I loved that idea in Star Wars. Making someone that's powerful with the Force a nobody is great.
Don't tell Milan that.
Hey, there we go. Well, yeah, no, that's the chi. And I think that with the other issue, it's just, then of course we've done this before. The fans kind of got involved and they just got mad. They're like, she should have been a Kenobi. She should have been Palpatine. And so then, in Rise of Skywalker, they said, okay, we got to get her related to somebody. And, that I bet they went back and forth on it. And so she kind of thought back and forth. And, Rise of Skywalker is a mess on many levels, including maybe not having a script written while they're filming, which, makes an absolute amount of sense. There wasn't a lot of breaking news for me on this one because, I like these movies except for Rise of Skywalker. And so I just think it was a little bit hectic in there.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that if I remember correctly, The Force Awakens, there was an intention to maybe reference the throne or something with Palpatine. I think that maybe this was an idea that had been floating for a long time, but it sounds like they got away from it. And coming to The Rise of Skywalker, or getting to The Rise of Skywalker, when you have J.J. Abrams jump back in and he's trying to take things in a different direction, or kind of a retcon a little bit what was done in The Last Jedi, it just feels like they just wanted that like shocking payoff. But even in the film, the way it was presented was like, oh, okay, cool. How's he here?
I remember just like there was many times where I just made this perplexed face throughout, and I just remember that was the first of many. I was just Palpatine, like that's just lame. Like it just like didn't really go anywhere with it.
It was odd. Let's hope that Netflix does a better job with the Kane Chronicles trilogy, which is set for a series of film adaptations from author Rick Riordan. This is a series that follows, or is based in Egyptian mythology. So it follows two siblings who are working to save their father, who has unleashed the gods of Egypt on the modern world. And that just actually sounds right up my alley. I love Egyptian stuff. I think like that history there is so fascinating. Rick Riordan is the author of the Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief series, which the films were not really received well at all because they were not good. That is getting a Disney Plus series, it sounds like, which is, cool. Disney Plus adding to their lineup there. But I'm excited. I mean, this goes back to all the stories we've talked about in previous weeks with Netflix just, adding to the roster of properties that are coming out in the future. But this sounds like one that I think could be pretty fascinating and really rope in some young adults.
If there is a company that could take a, at least to me, but rather unknown book series and make it into extremely expensive effects-driven movies, it's going to be Netflix. I look at this thing and I've read, this was one that made me have to go to the extremely important Wikipedia to just sort of figure out this plot. And it sounds great. It does sound, like you said, right up your alley, right up my alley. I love the idea of it. I think that it's interesting because it's done through different perspectives each time through the kids. So I think that's great. This is definitely something that screams Netflix teen movie. Not a bad thing, but could potentially be a bad thing. And, that's fine. Let the kids be entertained. Let them watch their Netflix. I'm cool with that. I would like to see something very interesting and fun. I'd like to see good movies out of it. This might be something where they just try to reach the kids and, get some views, which, okay.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know much about the series. It's one that I would like to kind of dive into, maybe read before they get to the screen. But usually I say, we have a couple years for that, but who knows with Netflix? Netflix seems to pump things out pretty fast. So we'll see with that. We did have a breaking news story last week that broke right when we were recording, which was that Borat 2 has been filmed and is, I guess, looking for release or has some backing. I really think it's like an HBO Max or someone that is backing this, to be quite honest. But, there's a lot of unconfirmed details about it, but it sounds like it was filmed last month or the month before, and that Sacha Baron Cohen was undercover as different individuals, interviewing other individuals, and that there will be a connection to Trump and Epstein in it.
Oh my God.
So there we go.
When I read this news, I just said, wait, they can't make another Borat movie because Borat's a cultural icon now. And so, the moment you see Borat, you're like, oh, wait, that's not true. So the fact that he's disguised as other characters, now I'm just going to be annoying and say, is that technically a Borat movie? Or is it his, What is America or Who is America?
What is it, Borat disguised? Is it Sacha Baron Cohen?
Oh, God, no.
As Borat, disguised as other individuals.
Dude playing a dude disguised as another dude.
I think I'm correct in that.
And if that is the case, then power to him for making this happen. My one concern is, obviously, and maybe not obviously, but most likely this felt like it was filmed, before the quarantine and before the COVID. Maybe not, but I think it might have been filmed before the quarantine. Now, if it was, that means none of that is in it. Now, the first Borat movie put a mirror up to America and helped us look at the cultural lexicon. Now, if we're doing that in the second Borat movie, granted there was plenty to work with before quarantine, it might, first of all, it could be a vacation from COVID if it doesn't involve anything with COVID, or it could be something that just does not seem as timely because they'll be like, remember those Australian forest fires? How about that? Like that was this year, by the way. That was this year. But I wonder what this could be. And if it could be something that is genuine, because this worked in 2004 for its subtlety, but have we gone too far up? Well, we have, but like, can something like this work? Because subtlety is gone or may not work in this climate. Not sure.
Yeah, I would be surprised if they don't add in something about quarantine and the pandemic. I'm sure they'll get to that at some point. But yeah, I wonder what the direction's going to be there. I mean, is it just going to be a 2-hour movie with him trying to mess with right-wing individuals, or which he loves to do? Yes. Meeting Sacha Baron Cohen. I don't know. I don't know what to expect from this, but I'm kind of all for it. I mean, I'm ready for that stupid humor.
Oh, I'm so excited because I think Borat was that stupid humor, and then you would just these little bits of intelligence would drip out where I'm just like, oh, they are just kind of looking at us like this. It was sort of fun to just get that, for lack of a better word, Schadenfreude of just oh man, these guys are suffering. Kind of.
Yeah, smacked you in the face a little bit.
Oh man.
Well, the next story is that 5 or so years after #OscarsSoWhite trended during the Academy Awards, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences announced last week that beginning with the 96th Academy Awards in 2024, which is a whole other issue that we need to talk about, films will have to meet certain inclusion-related criteria in order to be eligible for Best Picture. So 2 of the following benchmarks must be met. And of course, reminding you, this is again just related to Best Picture. First is ensuring that at least 30% of the cast comes from underrepresented groups or are featured in significant roles. The second is the same as that one, but for the film crew. The third is committing significantly to apprenticeships, internships, and developmental programs. And the fourth is significant representation within marketing, publicity, and distribution teams. So these are standards that were adapted from the British Film Institute, the Academy's kind of sister organization overseas. Hey, good move. Don't know why we're waiting until 2024.
It's interesting because this is incredibly easy to do. I mean, incredibly easy to do. People have said now The Irishman wouldn't qualify. And it's like, well, maybe it didn't at the time, but listen to me very carefully to all those people that are upset by this. You can still have your all-white cast. It can still happen. Behind the camera has to be, wait for it, 30%.
Right.
This, the boom mic operator, the craft service table guy. These is very fine. Now, first of all, I think it's better to have more, diverse characters in front of the camera and stuff like that. But genuinely, this stuff that, is just to get people of a diverse background with their foot in the door. Mm-hmm. So that, someone could hold the boom mic, then eventually maybe be someone that's a set designer, then eventually maybe be a sound designer. And then, this will actually work a little bit better. Like you said, those 4 qualifications, they only have to meet 2 of them.
Yep.
And so this is just such a simple thing to do. And yeah, you know what? On the Waterfront would not have gotten nominated for Best Picture, but also people were protesting schools getting integrated then. Things have changed. I'm sounding a little bit condescending here to the people that might get upset, and some people just might think, oh, now the most diverse picture will win. And that really isn't the case. You just have to meet this qualification, and then those Best Picture nominees come through. And that's true. Like you said, this is just for Best Picture. You can have your all-white cast, and they can all still get now. We could still have 20 nominations of the situation. And someone's like, well, why can't what was the one big thing was and people weren't knocking Parasite, but they're like, would Parasite be allowed in here? And it's like, yes, they're over 30% of the we're good there. Like, that's solid. Like, come on. Oh man, it is. I understand where it was, because you actually gave the best summary that I've heard. So well done to you. Because a lot of people made it a little bit more complicated, and then the lovely article titles were like Oscar new diverse rules, whites executed on site. It's just people just reading the title, people got a little bit too crazy, and I understand. Hey, as a white man, I got for a second. There's always that twinge of me that just says, "Wait a minute, what is this? What is going on here?" And then I realized that first of all, it's a good thing in general. And second of all, it's not a big deal. And that's what people need to realize.
It's not a big deal. And one of the things that we've talked about in the past, we talked about it a little bit last week, I believe, and we also talked about it during our broadcast during the film festival with the ladies that we had on, was about the fact that it's not that there's not diverse individuals out there that are part of the industry. It's that they're not being given the opportunities. And this ensures that the opportunities are given. Not saying that that's a completely biased industry, but there's something that has been pretty, I think, really come into its own recently, is the recognition of unconscious bias. And it's the biases that we hold that we don't even maybe recognize or that we're not aware of. And that's present everywhere. So if we can break down those barriers and, take those steps to make sure that we are doing the legitimately bare minimum here, come on, then I think that's a positive step. So happy for that. Very happy as well that Jonathan Majors from Lovecraft Country is joining Ant-Man 3. And I think this is pretty much confirmed now. It was a rumor for a while, but that he's going to be playing Kang the Conqueror, which is a time-traveling villain that has fought with the Avengers for years and years and years. But what an awesome casting for that.
This is, first of all, get on the John Majors train if you're not on the John Majors train. We're looking at Last Black Man in San Francisco. Then we're looking at Da 5 Bloods. And now we're looking at Lovecraft Country, where he is just, 3 very different roles. All 3 of them very different. And all 3 of them, he is just spectacular in them. And so he can do weird stuff now after Lovecraft Country. I was like, oh yeah, no, he can do the. Are you keeping up with Lovecraft Country?
I'm not.
Oh, buddy, it is. Every single episode is there's a constant story throughout, but every single episode is its own horror genre. Like, there's one that's a haunted house type of episode. There's one that's a body switch. I can't get over how great. How unbelievably great that show is. But regardless, Jonathan Majors is amazing in it. He can have fun in this. He's going to do well with the whole Marvel universe, I think, because, this is going to be a big time villain, as I'm told. This is a guy that, could probably be one of the big Avengers foes, according to the comics. So, this is a huge up for him. And, and now Ant-Man 3 could hopefully get nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I think with Ant-Man especially getting the introduction of this major character is pretty cool. I think Ant-Man has been underrated the past 2 movies. I actually really enjoy them. And the second one introduced a concept that was very important, or I guess furthered a concept that was very important for the ultimate outcome of Endgame. So I'm excited for that, because there's connections potentially to some other characters that we have not yet seen in the MCU, if we're talking about Fantastic Four. And I'm really excited to see where they're going with all this. Once again, Marvel has that ultimate plan that Star Wars did not.
You think they'd be done? They're like, we did Endgame, and I honestly thought they were gonna do this thing where it's like, let's just do whatever we want now.
Right.
But no, they're gonna start to tie it together again, which is kind of amazing that they're still going.
And here's breaking news that we're getting another trilogy of Star Wars. This will be directed by the director of Fantastic Four, Josh Trank. All three of them. I'm kidding.
So genuine, and I was about to throw everything in my makeshift podcast studio. Oh my god!
Can you imagine? The sad part is I could. Like, that probably could happen.
That's why I believed you, buddy. Oh boy,
I can. So let's get to the top story that we wanted to talk about. This is one that we touched on a little bit last week. I think we mentioned it, but there's been some further developments, so we figured we'd take the time to talk about it a little bit. So Ray Fisher, who played Cyborg back in Justice League in 2017, and will be reprising the role, or I guess we'll be seeing him again in Zack Snyder's Justice League next year, had started alluding a couple of months ago to some issues that had taken place on the set of Justice League after Zack Snyder left. So as a reminder, Zack Snyder left production after a lot of it was filmed due to some family issues and some other things that were in play, and Joss Whedon took over. Joss Whedon, of course, is the director of the Avengers movies. So the allegations that were levied ultimately against Joss Whedon, as well as producers John Berg and Jeff Johns, were that Whedon was abusive on set and that he was enabled by the two producers. He further stated that Jeff Johns threatened to ruin his career by pulling him aside or pulling him into his office and stating this at some point. Warner Media, so the parent company of all this, of Warner Brothers and all that, had stated in August that they were investigating after they had done, I think, about 5 weeks of interviews with cast and crew to really get to the bottom of what was going on. They launched a workplace investigation to investigate some of the allegations that were raised. Then this story gets really weird. So I apologize for kind of pausing a little bit to just reflect and make sure I'm doing it justice. But, some of the other aspects of this were that the day that the allegations were released or were made online, and you'll see the slogan A greater than E, which is accountability over entertainment. You'll see that used a lot. The day that first launched, about an hour and a half later, a story broke that caught us all off guard and was really odd. And it was essentially that Jason Momoa, Fisher's co-star from Justice League, and of course the star of Aquaman, and a big name for Warner Brothers, would be providing the voice for Frosty the Snowman. I can't even say it with a straight face.
Is this our first retraction, by the way? Because I remember reporting this news.
I think so. So.
We officially retract that now.
Yeah, well, the reason why we're retracting it is because apparently that was released to kind of show or send people in a tizzy about the fact that his co-star, Fisher's co-star, Momoa, was working again with Berg and Johns on this movie, who would be producers of that film. So just really shady, and like nobody thought anything, I think, of it at the time. But this past week, I'm going to read this verbatim because it's a really
this is Momoa's post.
Yeah, this is Momoa's post.
No, I love this post.
In all caps, this shit has to stop and needs to be looked at. Ray Fisher and everyone else who experienced what happened under the watch of WB Pictures needs proper investigation. I just think it's effed up that people released a fake Frosty announcement without my permission to try to distract from Ray Fisher speaking up about the shitty way we were treated on Justice League reshoots. Serious stuff went down. It needs to be investigated and people need to be held accountable. Hashtag I stand with Ray Fisher. So basically, the one piece that I missed of this was there was a story that came out about, maybe it was last week, because I think this is what we alluded to. But Warner Brothers had said that Fisher was not cooperating with the outside investigator, to which Fisher completely rebutted all of that and rebuked all of that online and was able to show emails to his, I guess, to his people, in his management, that he was not comfortable talking to the investigator for certain reasons, or he wanted other people on the call and things like that, and that they actually did discuss things. And so basically that was a lie. All in all, it seems like Warner Brothers I don't really know what they're doing here. I don't know. It's not looking good for them, to be quite honest. And Ray Fisher, who is a young actor, right, is really taking a stand here, which I think is pretty noble of him and pretty awesome. And especially, like I said, with Jason Momoa being one of the stars of the franchise of Aquaman, and, he's coming out, he's going to be in Dune at the end of the year. He's going to be in some big films for them. All of them standing together, I think, really says something.
I love that our past two stories have been, young and also Black actors, sort of, maybe putting their career in jeopardy to speak out against something that, they have experienced, and an injustice that they have experienced. And I think that's incredible. These producers, this is some like old school Hollywood bullshit that just isn't tolerated anymore. Like, I imagine these guys just like bald as a cue ball, 300 pounds, and in 3-piece suits with cigars. I'm so confused. Their strategies are like these just archaic things. I'm like, do you know that this is not how this works anymore? Like, let's put a fake movie out there. Like, what is going on that that's the case? I'm just like, they're playing this all wrong. Their PR people suck. I mean, like, because I know they're awful people, so I'm done with them. Whatever, they have no morals. Their PR people need to be fired immediately. Not against the amoral job, but that's because they suck at their job of being amoral. I look at just something like this, and I just think that there's like you said, accountability over entertainment. And this thing starts at the top, and the people that supervise this abuse. Joss Whedon's done. I don't think he's ever really going to have much of a career anymore. People hated him after his really shitty way that he handled Avengers Age of Ultron in terms of like being remarkably anti-feminist. But and also the movie really sucked. But
I hated that movie.
Not sure which is more important, but both are there. So already he's been like kind of out there. And I remember when he took over Justice League, I was like, oh, okay. And I just think that with him, this is just it. You're done, man. And so I think that these producers need to either launch a legitimate investigation and not tell lies about the person that they're investigating for, because they're just straight up telling lies to get around it, or resign. I literally don't know how there's any way around this. I mean, they won't. They'll stay in power and it'll be fine. But I really have a hard time believing that they're going to really go farther with this. And then the biggest thing, and the reason we're really talking about this, is Momoa standing up for him. That's not going to end with Momoa, because I know these I don't know these casts. Excuse me. I know the patterns of these casts of superheroes. I mean, everybody stood behind James Gunn. Everybody stood behind the Snyder Cut. Like, we're going to hear from Gal Gadot soon. We're going to hear from, Ben Affleck or Henry Cavill. We might be hearing from them soon. I mean, Ben Affleck sometimes has a tough time like in the spotlight. But we might be hearing from a lot of these people. And oh man, I just get kind of worked up over it. It feels like just kind of stupidity the way this is going. This is an investigation that I don't think looked legitimate, because you just decided to complain about the availability of the guy you're investigating on, when actually let's actually work around his schedule. I mean, that seems like what it was. It was just like, oh, he couldn't come at this time. Like, it's baffling.
I honestly think that more people are going to have to step out and speak out about this, because it's just interesting that even since the Momoa story broke last week, that we haven't really heard much more. The thing about Jeff Johns is that he's very intertwined with DC Comics, specifically the comics, as well as the television shows, and now the movies. So he was a writer for the comics. I think he probably still writes comics, if I'm not mistaken, or contributes to stories. But then with all the movies, I mean, up until he was a producer on, Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice, Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, Justice League, Aquaman, Shazam, Birds of Prey, Wonder Woman 1984. He also co-wrote Wonder Woman 1984 with Patty Jenkins and Dave Callahan. And then TV shows, I mean, he dates back all the way to Smallville for DC movies. Or DC shows as a writer for 3 episodes. He developed The Flash with Greg Berlanti, created Titans with Greg Berlanti and Akiva Goldsman, and then created and is showrunning Stargirl. So he's all over the place.
Now, I do wonder with these sometimes, especially with the producers, like, I don't deny that he, wasn't the writer of some of the beginning ones, but then when we get to like, him writing Wonder Woman 1984 with other people, how many figures did he have in that pie really? Or was it just something where it's just like, oh, that character's name was Slagathor and you got to put Slagathor in there? Like,
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, but I think the fact that Ray Fisher alludes to on the set of Justice League, or doesn't allude to, states that on the set of Justice League, he was called into Jeff Johns' office and Johns threatened his career, essentially, shows to me that he's involved in these projects and that he's there. So I don't know. I'm kind of speechless with this one.
Yeah.
Just because I think I'm really surprised in a good way to see Ray Fisher standing up for himself, to see Momoa coming out for him. I was originally saying like we probably won't see Ben Affleck do anything or say anything just because of how his troubled relationship with the company has been. Because remember, we're not just talking about DC here; we're talking about Warner Brothers in general, which is one of the largest studios. And that's a challenge to go up against, especially when you have projects in the works. Same with Ezra Miller. Like Ezra Miller doesn't want to rock the bus right now, right? He has his own issues to deal with.
He's in a little bit of trouble, yeah.
Yeah, but I think like Gal Gadot, I could see her making a big impact by coming out and saying something.
Absolutely.
So we'll see where this goes. I mean, we wanted to touch on this for a while because I do think that it is something that's going to continue to play out. And with Joss Whedon especially having such a large filmography, he's and Jeff Johns and John Berg being involved in as much as they are when it comes to the DC films, which also, like, now that I think about it, makes it kind of weird that Frosty the Snowman was announced with them as producers. Like, how dumb were we? Because looking at the filmography, well, I guess maybe I'm not dumb, but looking at the filmography for Jeff Johns, like the last non-superhero movie he did was he was an assistant to Richard Donner on Lethal Weapon 4.
Oh, I was gonna say maybe it was Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, but
yeah, the live action Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Exactly.
They're trying to build that Christmas time universe.
Who would voice Rudolph? It would be Timothy Chalamet.
Oh no, he'd be like Bambi. He wouldn't be Rudolph. He'd be like, no, please stop. So yeah, I don't know if there's much more to say about this one, but we'll see where that goes because here's going to be I think a telltale sign. We were originally told we were told point blank that the Flash movie, which we've talked a lot about in the past couple of weeks with a lot of the developments there, we know, especially confirmed this week by Barbara Michietti, who is an executive producer, that there's going to be a lot of DC characters in there. One of the original rumors about the film was that it was kind of going to be like a buddy film between Cyborg and the Flash, which kind of gets set up a little bit in Justice League with like the whole high five thing and all that stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see where he goes next. Ray Fisher doesn't have that much coming up, but I'm all about someone making a stand and standing for what they believe in.
It's positive there. That's the one positive aspect of this.
It's crazy, but if you have Twitter, and you don't follow Ray Fisher, I do recommend it because it's pretty interesting. He's very interactive with people, and I think the Snyder Cut movement has really gotten behind him, and just a lot of fans of comic book movies in general are like, "What is going on here? What is this crap?" So that's that. That is where we are at. There was probably a story that broke during this, which happens every week. Yeah. Right now, I broke. Maybe I'll check. Should I check?
Give it a shot. Maybe we'll have some really cool breaking news on the podcast that is going to be released tomorrow morning. So it won't be breaking news, but
yeah, I'm not seeing anything.
All right.
So once again, here we are. That's great. Yeah, so that's pretty much what we have for this week in terms of the news. A lot of good news compared to previous weeks. Anything that you have going on coming up that you want to kind of promote here?
There is nothing really coming up for me. I am teaching and wedding planning, so
There you go.
it's both exhausting and expensive.
Yes, I got the appointments for discussion around the live streaming of the wedding, so I'm looking forward to that.
I'm letting Sam handle all of that.
Looking forward to that. So this week's new releases, we have The Devil All the Time, which came out today. And if you're talking about a film that won't be able to or wouldn't be able to make it for the Best Picture due to the diversity standards that are going to be enacted in 2024, that would certainly be one of them because that is a white cast.
Maybe the background. Maybe behind the camera. Come on.
All In: The Fight for Democracy comes out on Friday on Amazon Prime Video. I talked about that last week. It is. I did watch that last week. It's a good film. Definitely going. It's politically charged and it's definitely going to get people pissed off. But I think it presents facts really well, which to me are hard to ignore. So I definitely recommend that. Antebellum comes out on premium VOD. Are you going to be doing that?
See, I heard it's really, really bad.
I did too.
Absolutely. I will be watching this.
I did too. So, and then there's a film called Infidel coming out in theaters this week. And it's, oh God, I'm going to forget his name. The one that played Jesus in Passion of the Christ, Jim Caviezel. Yeah. So it's a Middle Eastern story and he's the lead in that. So, pretty interested to see what that is. I know it's going to be in my theater. So I'm like, maybe I'll go see it. Sean, where can people find you?
You can find me at Math Teacher Movies on Instagram, all one word. I do Monologue Mondays, I do What the Oscars Got Wrong Wednesdays, and I do Final Shot Fridays. Peppered in there are movie and TV reviews from both today and yesterday.
I like that little pitch you have now. That's great.
Oh yeah, I've been perfecting it.
Guys, if you want to listen to this podcast or any of our old podcasts, please subscribe wherever you listen to them. Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, any of them. We're there. Just find us. Search for us. And please leave a review. We have been enjoying the ones that we've been reading. We're sending them back and forth today, and we'll try to respond where we're able to. And in addition to that, I will have a special side pod coming out, which is going to be just the audio from the Instagram Live I did last week with Win Martin from Seattle, who is a self-described Blu-ray-aholic, essentially, Blu-ray hoarder. 2,300 Blu-rays, I think he said, which is insane.
Nice.
But it was a fun conversation. So I'll drop that as a bonus probably this weekend at some point. And that's about that, I think that's a good place to wrap up. Are you wearing your mask at school?
I am wearing my mask. I am doing it is officially the best one is the medical mask, just because the cloth ones are very fashionable, but the medical ones are very functional.
Yeah.
So pretty much because when I'm wearing them for that long, it's actually not that hard to teach them. So I would say that if it isn't that hard to teach them, that isn't that hard to just wear them when you're at a Cumberland Farms.
And as we say at the end of every week, or as I say, please wear your damn mask.
Wear your damn mask.
It's not that hard. We will see you next week.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.